Beg me to come in on my first day of a vacation, and then threaten me with termination? I know this is similar to the current top post, but their story reminded me of my own. As I was finishing up high school, I got my first job working at the Circle K down the street from my house. I still lived with my dad, and I had a pretty sweet deal. Because he was a consultant, thus his big house with a pool in a nice neighborhood was all mine about 3 weeks out of the month, sometimes as long as 6 weeks. My dad told me I had to start paying for my own insurance for my car, and there'd be no allowance anymore. So I needed some sort of a job, but I didn't need anything major, so I took the job under the premise that they just needed someone part-time. Immediately, I was thrust into 40+ hours a week at this place, as the manager had some weird inability to hire people. I honestly think he just lied about not being able to get people, so he could run a skeleton crew to make his profit margins look better. I can't count how many times they had one person working a shift that needed at least 2, and could have used 3. The place was always a bit of a mess because, as mentioned, we were chronically understaffed. He was always asking us to do a ridiculous amount of work, and at one point he even managed to piss off the beverage distributor so they'd no longer help stock the coolers when our drink supplies came in. So sometimes you'd be in charge of stocking all the coolers, a huge order, while having to keep an eye on the register and all the other crap we had to do, like facing all the shelves, rotating the hot foods, etc. Long story short, what should have been a brainless crap job that did have crap pay, minimum wage, ended up sucking a huge portion of my time. But life could have been worse. I had a lot of extra money and a really nice house all to myself, so there were some social perks indeed. At a certain point, I requested some time off to go on a road trip with some friends, and it was granted. The day that we're supposed to be heading out on the road, I get a call from my boss begging me to cover. He acknowledges that it's supposed to be the beginning of my vacation, but he couldn't get anyone to cover. We probably didn't actually have anyone that could that day, as we were so understaffed. Luckily for him, the driver on our road trip had let us know that we were going to be leaving later than originally thought, pretty much exactly when I'd normally be getting off shift. So I agreed, thinking Mr. Bossman would owe me one. So I go in, and is there gratitude? Is there some beer with a bow on it waiting for me as a post-shift thank you? No. This dude gives me this ridiculous list of crap to do. There was always a lot of work to do there, but this was actually the most ridiculous amount he'd ever dumped on me. The icing on the cake was that he ended his whole spiel with, "And I need this all done tonight or don't bother showing back up." The jerkwad actually had the nerve to threaten me after I came in on a day that was supposed to be beginning of a vacation? So I waited for him to leave, enjoyed some hot dogs while reading a magazine, sold myself a ton of beer. I couldn't stoop to actually stealing, but I was under 21, so this was convenient. And then closed the place up about 2 hours early. I didn't want to leave right away because then someone might notify him. But this particular branch was dead after a certain time, and so no one would notice. Then I went on vacation, and seeing as I hadn't done anything, let alone his laundry list of crap, I never went back. Despite the fact that I didn't do what he asked, he still expected me back. So I had the pleasure of listening to his 5 or 6 irate messages before he finally realized that it wasn't a misunderstanding about when I was supposed to return to work. I was just following his instructions. It truly is a wonderful thing to be able to have a job, yet have no hard financial need for said job. So enjoy it while it lasts, my friend, because very soon, when you have a lot more bills, you won't be able to up and leave whenever you want. You'll have to start planning things out. Want bananas? You got it. I'll readily admit that this one is relatively mild malicious compliance compared to most of what's on this subreddit. No one got put out, inconvenienced, or came under any harm, so apologies in advance if this one seems a little lame. Also, apologies for formatting, I'm on mobile. The office I used to work in was located right next to a grocery store. This place was a popular lunch destination for people that worked in this building because it had a lot of quick options for lunch. Also worth mentioning, I worked with a great team. We got along great, would have no problem backing each other up, helping each other out with difficult issues, bringing stuff in for the team, doing favors, and so on. Because I was usually one of the first ones in, I was typically the first to take my lunch, unless I got stuck on a major crap show of an issue. So typically before I left, I would ask my nearby colleagues, "Hey, I'm heading next door to store. Do you guys need me to grab anything for you?" Periodically, one or two of my colleagues would ask me to grab something when I asked, and would give me some cash or their card to buy what they requested. We had a great working relationship, and they knew I wasn't going to do anything untoward with their card or cash. It was no trouble for me because I was always going anyway, and I usually came right back with my lunch and ate it in the break room or at my desk. One of my colleagues, let's call him Daniel, had an unusual request: bananas. This request was usually honored without incident. During one such lunch trip, I headed over to the produce department of the usual large display of bananas they have. But this time, I spotted something on the top shelf of the display that I had either never noticed before or the store had just started stocking. Red bananas. I never knew that red bananas were a thing, so I had no advanced knowledge of what those looked like inside or tasted like. All I saw were these maroon-colored bananas. I saw a sign for red bananas, but I didn't see a price. I got an idea. I grabbed a bunch of conventional yellow bananas for my colleague and broke off one of the red bananas from the bunch I saw, not knowing how much they cost. I thought it would be a bad idea to buy a whole bunch, especially with someone else's money. I paid for the yellow bananas with the cash that Daniel gave me. I used my card to buy the red banana and my lunch, and I stuck the red banana in the bag with Daniel's lunch of yellow bananas. It turned out to be a good idea that I only bought one red banana, because they rang up at $1.50 a pound, and the yellow ones were probably 30 cents a pound. So, after getting back to the office, I put the bag of bananas on Daniel's desk, along with his change. He thanked me, and I headed back to my desk. I sent an IM to a couple of my other colleagues. I bought and stashed a red banana in Daniel's bag. Let's see how long it takes for him to notice. About an hour later, I hear an exclamation from Daniel's desk. "What the hell?" He held up the odd-colored banana. I told him while laughing, "It's a red banana!" It was pretty quiet work-wise, so our small team all converged around this red banana in amazement and amusement. I did let Daniel know that I paid for it myself because it turned out to be far more expensive than the normal ones. Someone asked the important question: how do we know if it's ripe? None of us had an immediate answer. A Google search told us that they're dark maroon when ripe, so we thought it was okay. Daniel was not up for taste testing this variation of his favorite fruit. Another colleague, let's call him Andrew, decided to give it a go. He tried to peel it and couldn't break the skin with his fingers. He used a plastic knife to nick the skin and tried again to peel it. The layers of skin had separated with the inner half of the skin still on the banana. We saw that the inside skin was a mix of white, green, and the maroon from the outside of the banana. The green didn't bode well, but there was no stopping after committing to this expedition. Andrew worked at this banana persistently for a few minutes, and finally managed to get about 1.5 inches of the white fruit exposed. It looked like any normal banana. After all that work to get a little bit of the fruit out from under the skin, and completely undeterred by the previous struggle, Andrew took a bite. There was a very loud crunch, followed by a surprised groan from Andrew. We all cracked up laughing. Never have I heard a banana crunch like that, not even with dried banana chips. It sounded like he took a bite into a large hard candy. It was a wonder that Andrew didn't crack a tooth from it. Suffice it to say, definitely not ripe. So there you have it. There's how a request for bananas turned into a hilarious break from office monotony. I did troll Daniel a few more times with requests for bananas, but this was probably the best one. Thanks for reading. Now, I specifically picked this story simply because the next story is part 2 from our Banana Malicious Compliance. Banana Malicious Compliance number 2. I had mentioned in my previous post that my prior office building was located right next to a grocery store that was a popular lunch destination due to the proximity and their variety of quick lunch options. I had also mentioned that I would often be the first on my team to take lunch, and would often ask my team if they wanted me to pick up something while I was out. My colleague Daniel would frequently ask me to pick up bananas. This was another day at the office, and another planned trip to the supermarket next door for lunch. When I told my team I was heading out and asked if anyone wanted anything, Daniel gave me a slight variation of his request. 1 banana, just a small one. He handed me $1 to buy the banana, which I handed back to him because I wasn't worried about buying something that would cost less than a quarter. I headed to the store, picked up my lunch, and headed over to the produce section and the giant banana display. This time, I spotted something at the top corner of the display that was a little more frequently stocked than the red bananas. Mini bananas. Here's someone else's picture with banana for scale. And thus, an idea was born. The mini bananas were sold by weight, and the bunches were already bagged in plastic. So I couldn't just break off one from a bunch. They were about the same price per pound as the normal size counterparts. So I grabbed a bunch of the mini bananas and one regular but small banana that Daniel asked for, and went to checkout. For the record, the bunch of mini bananas was roughly 50 cents. I walked back to the office, and while I was in the elevator heading up to my department's floor, I opened the bag containing the mini bananas and broke off one from the bunch. I got back to my desk, dropped my stuff off, and headed over to Daniel's desk with a single mini banana, placed the tiny banana on his desk, wordlessly, and started to walk away. Immediately, Daniel starts laughing. He showed the person sitting behind him the single mini banana, which made her laugh too. I reminded him that he asked for just one small banana. Still laughing, Daniel proclaimed this tiny Cavendish to be awesome. I did bring him the normal banana he asked for after a few minutes of laughter. I told him that I could only buy the mini ones by the bunch, and that he could have the rest if he wanted them, which he happily accepted. Just from the way OP sounds, I'm willing to bet he's got a plethora of these dad joke-esque stories to pull from throughout his life. Alright guys, it's gonna wrap it up for today. If you're new around here and you enjoyed the stories, consider subscribing, for I strive to do this daily and a lot of times twice a day. Also, if you really liked it, maybe consider giving it a like and a share. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.